Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down 200 facts that might save your life one day. If you have a potentially life-saving fact, drop it in the comments, and we can all learn together. Cold conditions can be deadly. Symptoms of mild hypothermia include shivering and mental confusion. In moderate cases, shivering stops. Severe cases can include hallucinations and paradoxical undressing. Get warm and seek immediate medical treatment. If you're trying to carry out a rescue, there's a chance you yourself could become in need of rescuing. Prioritize your own safety and check for danger when attempting a rescue. Untrained first responders risk becoming casualties themselves, especially in urgent situations. A flu vaccine uses a deactivated or weakened version of the virus to train your body to recognize it. This allows your immune system to develop antibodies and fight the flu better when you actually catch it. Influenza, or the flu, isn't something to be sniffed at. You are more likely to survive choking on something if you have people around you to help. So if you're choking, don't get embarrassed and walk away from people. Instead, perform the universal sign of choking with both hands on your neck, and others around you should realize what's going on.
One more time, dear.
Most venomous snakes have thin, cat-like pupils, while non-venomous snakes have round pupils. However, there are exceptions, like the venomous coral snake. Solid colored snakes are often non-venomous, whereas colorful ones are typically venomous. If you're in a forest and there's a moment of sudden silence, pause and listen attentively. The silence could indicate the presence of a predator nearby. Remain vigilant and be aware of your surroundings. Campfires can repel wild animals since they signal where humans are. However, bears aren't repelled by campfires and can instead use them as a beacon to wander into camp. Be aware of your surroundings and whether or not making a fire is the best idea for your situation. Africanized bees, also known as killer bees, are more aggressive than other bee species and can swarm and attack humans if disturbed. They also chase people further, up to a quarter mile, than other varieties of honeybees. If someone faints, don't keep them upright. Blood drops down into the legs when upright, reducing the amount of blood returning to the heart, leading to decreased pumping ability and lowered blood pressure. Instead, gently catch them and lay them down in recovery as soon as possible. Fainting occurs when the brain requires more blood to function properly, so keeping the person standing can exacerbate the situation.
People faint for a lot of different reasons. You want to help them to the ground, call 911, and stay with them until help arrives.
Boredom could be slowly killing you. Studies have shown that boredom is linked to depression, anxiety, stress, and unhealthy lifestyle choices. The opposite of burnout at work is known as bore-out. One well-placed hit or misplaced step can lead to fatal injury in any fight. No conflict is better than winning a conflict, as even a brief fight can have disastrous consequences. So de-escalate a situation if you can. If there's no preventing a physical altercation, fight dirty. Go for the groin, eyes, or ears. While this might seem obvious to some, texting or calling while driving is incredibly dangerous. The same goes for eating and drinking while driving. When you try to multitask like this, it can cause inattentional blindness, where you fail to perceive fully visible objects. This can lead to fatal accidents. Don't grab a dog's collar when breaking up a dogfight, as this might cause them to bite you. Instead, lift the dog's back legs under the hip like a wheelbarrow and move backward, away from the other dog. While most minor animal bites are not serious, some lead to a life-threatening infection. This includes bites from domestic and wild animals. Clean the wound with soap and water, apply antibiotic cream, and cover the wound with a clean dressing. Seek urgent medical care if the wound is swollen, painful, or leaking fluid. Landslides and rock slides can be deadly. If you're caught in one, move quickly away. find cover, and shield your head using your arms to avoid getting hit by falling debris. Green potatoes are toxic to humans. Potatoes become green when exposed to sunlight, causing the production of solanine. Eating them can cause symptoms such as nausea, headache, and in severe cases, even death.
In case you're not freaked out enough, the part above the plant, that grows above ground, that contains leaves and stems, it also grows these cute little berries. Don't eat those berries. Those little guys contain 10 to 20 times the glycoalkaloid, and they will lay you out.
If your clothes catch fire, you will get burnt. So before it does too much damage, remember, stop moving, drop to the ground, covering your face with your hands, and roll to extinguish the fire by depriving it of oxygen. If you're stuck out at sea, do not drink seawater. The salt in the seawater will dehydrate you faster than the water will hydrate you, bringing you even closer to death.
Don't you know the poem? Water, water everywhere, so let's all have a drink.
Homer, no!
Tornadoes rip through the higher floors of buildings, so if you're caught up in one, go to the lowest room inside, ideally without windows, preferably the basement. But ensure you don't take shelter where heavy objects would be directly above you. It can be hard to spot people from the air, so if you find yourself in the wilderness and need to signal to an aircraft for help, use a mirror or reflective object to flash sunlight and attract attention. Speaking of being lost in the wilderness, if you are lost and think you'll be there for a while, your first step should be to find shelter and water. The first thing to kill you could be hypothermia. Some species of fish are poisonous to humans. Improper preparation of certain fish like the pufferfish or fugu can lead to paralysis and even death. Domoic acid, a toxin produced by specific types of algae, can cause seizures and fatal consequences upon consumption of contaminated seafood. It typically accumulates in shellfish, sardines, and anchovies. Found in tide pools in the Indian and Pacific Ocean, the blue-ringed octopus produces a neurotoxin that can cause paralysis and death. And there is no known antivenom, so stay away.
And then you find out that little tiny creature could have killed you and over 20 people.
Talk about a shocker.
Speaking of octopuses, or octopi, while it's rare for a giant octopus to attack a human, it can be very dangerous if they do. If one does grab you, swim away forcefully. Don't go limp or let its arms wrap around you, or you'll have difficulty escaping. Try to detach it from its anchor so it can't drag you down, and head towards the surface. They dislike air and will likely let go, but if they don't, peel off those suckers! Volcanic ash can be dangerous to breathe in, especially if you have conditions like asthma or emphysema. Since it's frozen lava, you're basically breathing in glass, lacerating your insides and causing potentially permanent scars in your lungs. While a filtration mask isn't an absolute solution, it can't hurt to bring one along. Radon is a colorless, odorless radioactive gas present in most soil. However, it can get trapped in your home, causing a buildup that can lead to lung cancer. Symptoms of exposure include shortness of breath, coughing, pain or tightness in the chest, and trouble swallowing. You can have your home tested by a professional or with a do-it-yourself kit. Another odorless and colorless gas that can be dangerous is carbon monoxide, which is released by engine exhausts, fireplaces, and appliances that burn wood, gas, oil, or coal. The most common symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning are headache, dizziness, weakness, upset stomach, vomiting, chest pain, and confusion. If you think you've been exposed, get some fresh air and call emergency services. And make sure to change the battery on your carbon monoxide detector. Ticks are small, spider-like creatures that feed on the blood of animals. They are also carriers of diseases, such as Lyme disease. If you're bitten by one, watch for symptoms, such as a rash, fever, and fatigue. Major earthquakes have rarely ever been predicted. So if you ever find yourself in one, drop to your hands and knees so you don't get knocked over. Cover your head and neck and get underneath something sturdy like a table or a desk. Hold on to whatever shelter you have and be prepared to move with it if it begins to shift around. At 8,000 feet, or 2,500 meters above sea level, you can suffer from altitude sickness. You'll feel like you've got a hangover, headache, puking, dizziness, tiredness, no appetite, and breathing troubles. When hiking or climbing, ascend slowly, 1,000 feet a day. If you suspect you have altitude sickness, stop and rest for at least 24 to 48 hours. If you don't feel better, descend to a lower altitude. When you have a nosebleed, tilting your head back can cause blood to go down your throat, choking you or irritating your stomach. Instead, apply an ice pack to reduce swelling. Pinch the nostrils together and lean forward slightly. Drowsy driving is extremely dangerous. If you're feeling sleepy behind the wheel, pull over, let someone else drive, drink coffee, or nap before continuing. As a passenger, be aware that you are the failsafe in this situation, and be prepared to wake up a sleeping driver by calling their name or shaking them. A bright flashlight can be an effective tool when defending yourself at night. Shine a light in an attacker's face and you can momentarily blind them, giving you a chance to escape danger. Diet has little influence on the body's detoxification. There is no evidence that detoxification diets rid the body of toxins. Some of these detox diets can have serious side effects, so be careful and do your research. Just because the traffic light is green does not mean you are safe to go. Many people still die in car accidents even if they have right of way. Always keep an eye out for oncoming dangers. Financial troubles drastically increase the risk of someone attempting to take their own life. Various factors are at play here, including systemic issues, but it's important to manage your money carefully to mitigate this problem. And look out for friends and family who are experiencing money problems. The World Health Organization estimated that dust and household air pollution were responsible for 3.2 million deaths per year in 2020. Much of this pollution comes from open fires and inefficient stoves, especially in rural areas. Try to make sure your home is well ventilated, and avoid kerosene, biomass, and coal as fuel sources. That being said, outside, the air isn't so fresh either. The World Health Organization estimated that ambient air pollution caused 4.2 million premature deaths worldwide in 2019. Check air pollution forecasts and support policies for cleaner transport and industry management. Jumping in elevators might seem fun, but the impact accumulates unseen damage. Roughhousing in one might be the last straw on an already strained system. So don't screw about. Don't mess with escalators either. Escalator accidents have resulted in amputation, strangulation, and even death. Car jacks are meant for lifting, not holding. So don't go underneath a car that's just supported by a car jack, or you might get crushed. Instead, use jack stands, which are inexpensive and readily available. When in a desert, you are much more likely to become dehydrated from water loss than from lack of access to drinkable water. As such, don't overexert yourself. Cover your skin, breathe through your nose, seek shade, and avoid drinking diuretic drinks. Garbage collecting is one of the deadliest jobs in the United States. Hazards in our waste are a problem, as are impatient drivers who pass stop trucks only to hit collectors. Slow down and give garbage trucks a wide berth. You might feel fine after you hit your head, but the effects of traumatic brain injuries can take time. Even if you didn't hit your head that hard, have someone stay with you and seek medical attention if you experience headaches, dizziness, drowsiness, nausea, or confusion. Holy water has been linked to dangerous infections, rashes, and the spread of diseases. Because so many people use church fonts, it becomes a habitat for dangerous bacteria. In fact, most holy water is contaminated by fecal matter, so do not drink it. If your boat is sinking, you are more likely to survive the longer you stay out of water. Don't immediately jump out of the boat if it's taking on water. Stay on it and try to plug the leak while signaling for help. As tempting as it might be to fry up a meal after a few pints, cooking while drunk can be pretty dangerous. One survey from the UK found people putting cutlery in toasters, putting the wrong thing in the microwave, or even leaving the oven door open to warm up the room. Some even fell asleep while cooking, leaving an open flame unattended, burning their food, and smoking up the house. Please be careful. Delaying medical treatment or even ignoring symptoms can lead to more severe health problems and even death. So be sure to get regular checkups with medical professionals. You never know what might be wrong. Drinking a responsible amount of alcohol with friends is fine, but becoming blackout drunk can be incredibly dangerous. Memory loss might be the least of your concerns, as there is a real danger you could throw up and choke. Being so inebriated that you can't look after yourself is never a good look. Drink responsibly. Even if you've been talking to someone online for a long time, you still don't truly know who that person is. People can be completely different in person and potentially even dangerous. If you plan on meeting up with someone, video call before seeing them. Meet in a public place. Have a reason or excuse to leave shortly after, and always tell someone where you are going. Poor oral hygiene is linked to heart disease. The bacteria that infects the gums can also travel to blood vessels elsewhere in the body, where they cause inflammation and damage. This can lead to tiny blood clots, a heart attack, or even a stroke. A lot of things can fit in your refrigerator. Some are even big enough to fit a person. You might have even put your friends in there as a joke. But this is actually incredibly dangerous. There have been cases where people have suffocated to death due to the lack of oxygen in refrigerators. Most refrigerators also use dangerous, flammable, or toxic chemicals like Freon. So don't mess about with a refrigerator. Don't breathe in those gases, and dispose of appliances safely when you're getting rid of them. The CDC estimates that 48 million people get sick from foodborne illnesses each year. It can happen more easily than you think. Make sure you cook and store your food correctly. Wash your hands before eating, and don't ignore those expiration dates. There is an area on your face between the corners of your mouth and the bridge of your nose known as the triangle of death. Avoid popping pimples here, as if you get an infection, it can spread to your brain. We know it's hard, but just leave those zits alone.
Taking lunch orders, Mr. Reed. Anything?
No, thanks. Had so much for breakfast, I'm just about ready to pop.
Inhaling paint or gasoline fumes can happen by mistake when you're painting or using gas-powered tools somewhere with bad ventilation. You might feel dizzy, get a headache, feel like you're gonna barf, or even pass out. Over time, it can damage your brain, liver, kidneys, or other organs. So it's important to use the right safety gear, take breaks, and avoid working in poorly ventilated indoor spaces. Once upon a time, doctors in maternity wards didn't wash their hands between patients. A study in the 1840s demonstrated that hand washing dramatically decreased mortalities. Now, it's common practice, but it proves the importance of washing your hands. You never know what might lurk on them, even if they look clean. Do you wear a lanyard? If so, you might have one that has a breakaway latch. These were invented to prevent choking or suffocation accidents. But this can also extend to necklaces and jewelry. Be careful, as you're wearing something close to a delicate part of your body. A tan is your body's way of trying to protect itself from the damaging effects of UV rays. Prolonged exposure to UV rays has been linked to malignant melanoma, the most serious form of skin cancer. Use sunscreen in the sun, and consider whether using a tanning bed is really worth it. You'd think that you could hear a train coming from miles away, but you can't. Trains can come much faster than you think with minimal warning signs. The sound gets bounced off and dampened by obstacles, distorting how far away it seems. Don't play on train tracks. Accidental or negligent weapon discharge can happen even if you don't have your finger on the trigger. The lightest pressure, or even a malfunction of the internal mechanism, can cause a firearm to go off. Even if you think there isn't a bullet in the chamber, don't ever point a weapon at someone unless you absolutely need to use it. Otherwise, what might have started as a joke could become deadly. You can overdose on over-the-counter medication, accounting for a significant proportion of overdose presentations in emergency rooms. When someone sprays on too much deodorant, it can be incredibly off-putting. But it's worse than you think. In the United Kingdom, a 16-year-old was so obsessed with smelling fresh, he would cover his entire body in deodorant at least twice daily. The gases in his body due to accidental inhalation later caused a fatal heart attack. You don't need to bathe in the stuff. Garage door springs carry a lot of tension. Even if one side is broken, the other could still hold in all that energy, and incorrectly replacing one can prove deadly. So be sure to hire a professional, or it could be your life on the line. Did you know that some states in the US have no safety regulations for amusement parks? Some leave it entirely up to the counties, with many not being required to record how many injuries or incidents they have had properly. Be extra careful the next time you want to go on a ride. The largest diameter hailstone recorded was bigger than a bowling ball. While hailstones that large are rare, it's best to take cover during a hailstorm. It's very common for people not to drink enough water. But did you know you can also overhydrate? When marathon runners drink lots of water, they sometimes add salts to balance out their electrolytes. Firing a shot into the air doesn't make the bullet suddenly disappear into space. You are responsible for everything that leaves your firearm's barrel and what it hits. Out of sight, out of mind doesn't work here. You never know where your content or conversations online will end up. They can be screenshotted, saved, copied, pasted, and spread to places you wouldn't even think of. So, before posting something, consider that whatever goes on the internet will stay on it, and you will have no control over it anymore. Chili peppers contain a chemical called capsaicin, which is what makes them spicy. It's the same stuff used in pepper spray. You would have to eat quite a lot to risk your life, but the results can nonetheless be extremely painful. Safety gear for sports and work are there to keep you safe. Even if you think they're an encumbrance, wear them. They could have saved the lives of many, and they could save you. Eating disorders have the highest mortality rate of any mental illness in the United States. If you or someone you know are suffering, please seek help. A belt has many more uses than keeping your pants up. It can also be used in emergencies, like applying a tourniquet, creating an arm sling, or even defending yourself. It's important to remember different types of stressors before you make important decisions. Remember this acronym, developed for people recovering from substance abuse issues. HALT. Are you hungry, angry, lonely, tired? You can understand why you might feel triggered or upset by checking in with yourself daily. That way, you can avoid making poor decisions that will make things worse. Allergies can develop later in life, even with things you might have been in love with when you were younger. This can be because of exposure to new allergens in the environment, family history, and changes in the immune system. So be careful. You might not be able to enjoy all that dairy, fish, or nuts without consequences.
Benadryl. A lot of Benadryl. A lot of Benadryl.
What?
Mascot outfits can trap heat incredibly well, so performing rigorous activity for prolonged periods can quickly lead to heat exhaustion. take regular breaks, and stay hydrated if you ever find yourself in one. When a microwave oven is turned on, the appliance begins producing microwaves, which causes the item inside to vibrate until it's hot. Metal is bad at absorbing microwaves, causing sparks to fly and even an explosion. So keep metal out of the microwave. It happens more than you'd think. If you find someone unconscious, putting them into the recovery position could save their life. After you've checked that the area is safe and called emergency services, place their arm closest to you at a right angle to their body, with the elbow bent and palm facing up. Put their other arm across their chest and the back of their hand against the cheek closest to you. While holding their arm there, pull their furthest knee up until their foot is flat on the ground, and roll them over onto their side, facing towards you. Tilt their chin back to open their airway and check for blockages. Electric devices don't just break in water. They can also send out electrical currents. It takes very little water to be electrocuted, so please keep appliances and devices away from water. Dialing emergency services might work even if your phone says you have no signal. In the United States, networks must push through emergency service calls on any available network, even private ones, so don't be afraid to call if you need it. After you've had people over, make sure that windows and doors are locked properly to prevent a possible intrusion, as some people forget to lock doors, or tradesmen forget to remove tape from latches. Even if you don't know how to swim, it can be relatively simple to float. Relax, take some deep breaths, lie backwards, and stretch your arms and legs out. Keep your face out of the water and only make gentle movements. Let yourself bob about. And now think about how you're going to get out of the water. It's common for people to charge their phones in their bed, but the charger can give off heat, and if that heat has nowhere to go, it might catch a flame. Blue light from phones prevents you from sleeping anyway, so charge it elsewhere, or maybe even in another room. Speaking of electrical fires, overloaded extension cords are also dangerous. This is because when too many devices are plugged in, the cord can overheat and catch fire. Trains are bigger and wider than the tracks, so even just standing beside a track while a train passes by could seriously injure you. Cars that catch fire can very quickly explode. If you are in a car accident and a car is on fire, get out of the car as quickly as possible and move at least 100 feet away from the burning vehicle. An old folk remedy for burns described covering them with oil, grease, or butter. The idea was to seal the burn from air, preventing infections. However, medical advice has advanced since then. You should, instead, cool the burn with running water for 20 to 30 minutes. Using these other substances can hold the heat in the skin, worsening the burn. Wearing a seatbelt in a car can reduce the risk of death or serious injury by up to 50%. Mosquitoes kill more people than any other animal, responsible for almost 1 million deaths a year through the transmission of diseases such as malaria and dengue fever. When traveling to high-risk areas, bring anti-malarial medication. If you're bitten, watch out for symptoms, and if you do feel sick, seek medical attention. The box jellyfish is considered the world's most venomous marine animal, with enough venom in one tentacle to kill up to 60 humans. There are artificial intelligences that can copy every part of your likeness, from your style of speaking, physical appearance, and even your voice. As such, everyone is even more at risk of falling prey to very convincing scams and fake news. Do your research, be scrutinous, and maybe even have a keyword for your close friends or family in case you get targeted by people using this technology maliciously.
Yeah, because I can only imagine a parent getting a call, pretending that it's a child, saying, we need money, we have your... I mean, right, how scary is that?
Right.
Intergenerational trauma is when the effects of trauma transmit to the children of those who have suffered traumatic experiences. It can benefit both you and your kids to seek help when it's needed and take care of your mental health. Different countries have different laws. Some enforce long prison sentences and even the death penalty for crimes that are treated more leniently in other places in the world. Make sure to carefully research the laws in countries you're traveling to and avoid breaking any local laws. Hair dryers, curling irons, and other heated styling tools can reach really high temperatures, making them burn hazards if misused. Despite common belief, Twinkies do not remain edible for decades. They typically have a shelf life of around 45 days, and like most other food, can lead to food poisoning if eaten after the recommended date. There's a common misconception that tampons are an effective way to stop the bleeding of a gunshot wound. This is not the case. Inserting a foreign object into the wound can cause further injury and bleeding. Instead, apply pressure to the wound and call for emergency medical assistance. Lightning can and often does strike twice in the same place. During a thunderstorm, lightning tends to hit objects or locations that are more conductive or prominent. For example, the Empire State Building in New York is struck by lightning approximately 23 times yearly. Antibiotics will not cure or even aid a cold. These are prescribed to treat bacterial diseases and secondary infections, and are generally ineffective against viruses. Urine is not sterile, not even in the bladder. So if you've ever heard that you should pee on a jellyfish sting or wounds to sterilize it, don't.
She's my friend and she needed help. If I had to, I'd pee on any one of you.
Unlike in the movies, you should not attempt to suck venom from a snake bite or apply a tourniquet.
Okay, I'll do it.
What? Oh, there'll be no sucking. Man, Troy, get this man away from my ass.
Are you sure?
Yeah, we sure. Thanks, y'all.
Instead, move the victim out of harm's way, have them lie down with the wound below their heart, and transport them to the nearest medical facility. Also, if you get bitten by a wild mammal, you should get the rabies vaccine immediately, as it is one of the most lethal diseases on the planet. If you break a bone, follow these steps. Call for help, attempts to stop any bleeding, and immobilize the injured area. Your car thermometer is not 100% accurate. Most cars are equipped with a thermistor behind the grille, which is exposed to heat radiating from the roadway. So even if your thermometer doesn't read below freezing, there could still be black ice on the road. Be aware of road conditions and give your thermometer a few degrees buffer, and it could save your life. Blue lights steal your sleep time, disrupting the brain's secretion of melatonin. So before you go to bed, place that phone in another room. Keeping your phone face down will save battery, which could become important in an emergency. This will keep it from lighting up when it receives notifications. Don't eat snow for hydration. Since it takes so much energy for your body to melt the ice, you'll end up further dehydrated than what you gain, plus lose essential body heat while you're at it. You can start a fire with a 9-volt battery and steel wool. If you rub the battery against the steel wool, it should begin to spark. Place it beneath kindling and you'll have an emergency campfire. Be sure to have water nearby if you need to extinguish it. An overloaded keyring could damage your car's ignition mechanism. All the weight can wear out sensitive internal components, making it so your car won't be able to start.
Wow, that's a lot of keys. Bigger the keychain, more powerful the man.
Laughter is proven to improve blood flow, immune response, blood sugar levels, and relaxation. So watching some funny internet clips could actually be helping your health. If you ever get stuck in a rip current, don't panic and try to swim directly back to the shore. Instead, swim across the current, parallel to the shore, until you're out of the rip. Speaking of which, if you need to catch your breath while exiting a rip, relax and float for around a minute or so. Some rip currents recirculate and might pull you closer to shore rather than just further away. If you think you're having a heart attack, you should chew aspirin, not swallow. This works faster to inhibit platelets, which trigger blood clotting. If you come across a mountain lion, don't run away. Calmly back away, maintaining eye contact without bending over or crouching. If it starts moving towards you, throw things at it. And if it starts getting aggressive, act as big and intimidating as possible. Never, ever go underneath a pin setter at a bowling alley, which includes sliding into the pins as a joke. The force is so strong on some of these machines that it can cause serious or even fatal injuries.
They're good machines, but just like any running machinery, they're dangerous. You got gears, you got pulleys, everything's running.
If you're at a beach on vacation and the water suddenly recedes from the coastline, run for high ground. A tsunami is on its way. Other signs include severe ground shaking and a roaring sound, as if from a train or plane. If a tornado doesn't look like it's moving left or right, it might be moving right towards you. Get to safety. If someone has been stabbed or punctured by a sharp object, leave the object in the body. It will potentially prevent blood loss. Apply direct pressure either side of the object. You should also sit or lie the person down and elevate their legs if they're in shock. If the object isn't still inside the victim, apply direct pressure to the wound to stop the bleeding. It takes 10 minutes for clots to form. Use gloves, clean cloth, or plastic bags to protect yourself from blood contamination. If a room in the house has a fishy scent, check your electrical outlets and start unplugging appliances. That smell could indicate overheating electrical components. You might just save yourself from an electric fire. The bystander effect is when people are less likely to help a victim when there are other people standing around. So, when crying out for help, pick out an individual in the crowd, make eye contact, and call on that person for help. Most drunk driving deaths occur between midnight and 3 a.m. in the United States. Maybe avoid the roads during these times if you can help it. If you see a bear, you should stand tall, talk calmly, and back away without making eye contact. In the rare case that you're attacked, you may have heard this rhyme. If it's brown, lay down. If it's black, fight back. If it's white, good night. If a brown bear attacks, you should play dead, or you'll make the attack worse. As for a black bear, which is smaller, you should fight back. A polar bear may see you as prey, so you should definitely fight back. But the odds are not good. If you're out and your drink tastes unusually salty, do not continue drinking it. GHB has a salty taste, although it's easily masked by other flavors. Your best bet is to never leave your drink unattended. If you ever wake up in the middle of the night to the smell of gas, do not turn on the light. A spark from a light switch could ignite the gas. If you ever see square waves in the ocean, get out. They can create powerful currents and rips. If one of your pupils reflects white in a picture, it could be just a reflection, but it could also be a sign that something is wrong with your eye, such as a cataract or even cancer. Normalcy bias is when people underestimate the threat of danger despite warning signs. About 70% of people display this bias in disasters, delaying evacuation. If you're asked to leave the area due to impending danger, just get out of there. You can use condoms as makeshift water storage, as they're incredibly elastic. Just make sure they're lubeless though. Tie the end around a stick so you can easily untie it. You can also wrap it in a sock to prevent it being pierced.
Because if you try to walk through the woods with the way that it was, you can forget about it. It's going to pop. And
if you're caught in a thunderstorm, do not stand near a tree. It's a natural lightning rod. If the air tingles and your hair stands on end, lightning is about to strike nearby. Crouch, tuck your head, and put your hands over your ears. Don't lie flat, as wet ground conducts electricity. If a power line falls next to you, don't walk or run. Shuffle or bunny hop to safety. Seems silly, but it makes sure that the voltage to each foot is the same, so that electricity doesn't run up one leg and down the other. When calling an emergency number, like 911, be prepared to give them an address or location first, so even if you're cut off, they know where you are. Follow up with the nature of your emergency. Encounter an emergency while abroad? The number 112 can be used in most European countries, forwarding you to local emergency numbers. It also works in some African and Asian countries, as well as North America. Hold your nose when you jump into rivers and lakes, especially if the water is stagnant. This protects against infiltration by dangerous amoeba. Also, if you're falling into water from a height, enter feet first with your arms at your sides. This could protect you from major injuries. If you ever feel like someone is following your car, take 4 right turns and it will make a circle. If they are still behind you, that means they are following you. If that's the case, go somewhere where people are, even a police station if you need to. If you accidentally disturb a beehive or wasp nest, do not run for the water. They'll just wait for you to resurface. Run fast and as far as you can, because eventually they will stop following you. Swatting at them will only make things worse, and if you get stung, pull the stinger out as soon as possible. The more colorful and vivid the animal is, the more likely it's poisonous. If you ever find yourself in a falling elevator, do not try to jump at the last second to avoid impact or bend your knees to absorb the impact. Instead, lying flat on your back and covering your face is your best bet for survival. If you find yourself lost in the wilderness and can't retrace your steps, walk downhill. You're more likely to hit a trail, road, or buildings. You're also likely to find a water source, which people often build around. And if you find a fence, follow it. If your plane has to make an emergency water landing, do not inflate your life jacket on the inside of the aircraft. It will make it harder for you to move to the emergency exits, especially if water rushes in. Instead, swim to the exit and then inflate your jacket. Heat travels through liquid faster than gas. So, if you want to stay warm, keep yourself and your clothes dry, so that heat transfers from your body more slowly. You can miss something in plain sight due to inattentional blindness, which can occur when your brain is attending to too many stimuli. One example is when you're walking and on your phone at the same time. This leaves you open to walking into objects or into traffic. If you feel sick and don't want to throw up, hum. Humming suppresses the gag reflex. The limits of the human body tend to follow rules of 3. People can generally go 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without shelter in extreme weather conditions, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. The most common sign of a heart attack is pain or discomfort in your chest, especially a feeling of pressure or squeezing. It can sometimes spread out to other areas and be accompanied by fatigue, a cold sweat, lightheadedness, nausea, or shortness of breath. If this happens, seek urgent medical attention. Women can experience heart attacks differently to men. While chest pain is common in both men and women, women are more likely to feel sick, experience shortness of breath, or have back, neck, or jaw pain.
The bottom line is there's more variation in heart attack symptoms in women, and women tend to wait to get them investigated.
If your stool has black specks in it, which some describe as looking like coffee grounds, seek medical attention. It might mean you have gastrointestinal bleeding. When walking downstairs, don't put your hands in your pockets. If you happen to slip and fall, your arms won't be able to grab a railing or break your fall.
No! 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 None of us! No! Stupid! There!
You don't have to pay money on any type of phone to call 911, so don't bother hunting for change if you're using a payphone. Most fire deaths are caused by smoke inhalation, not burns. If you find yourself caught in one, stay low to the ground and get out of there ASAP. Never put your feet on a car dashboard. Airbags deploy at hundreds of miles per hour and can break your nose when seated normally. But a broken nose is better than broken legs. Don't use bleach and cleaning products that contain ammonia at the same time in the same room. Their vapors will mix in the air and create chloramine, which can damage your respiratory tract.
You told people to mix ammonia and bleach?
Only if they want bathroom fixtures that shine like the sun.
Peggy, that's the recipe for mustard gas.
If your vehicle gets stuck on a railroad, get off the tracks immediately and run away at a 45-degree angle in the direction the train is coming from. This protects you from being in the splash zone of debris if your vehicle gets hit. Also, look for a sign with an emergency number for the railroad or call 911, and they can inform any approaching trains. A wagging tail does not always mean a dog is friendly or happy. Dogs can also wag their tail when fearful or as a warning. Always ask the owner before you pet their dog. Both the words flammable and inflammable mean that the product is capable of being easily ignited and of burning quickly. Non-flammable means not easily ignited. Chemical burns are different from heat and fire burns. You might not feel pain right away, but they can cause irreparable damage to your skin. If you get chemicals on you, be sure to read the labels and use the recommended method, as water can often not be enough.
You can run water over your hand to make it worse, or look at me! Or you can use vinegar to neutralize the burn.
Please let me have it, please.
Purple flags on the beach indicate dangerous sea life in the area. Red flags warn of serious hazards, such as high surf or dangerous currents. A double red flag means the water is closed to swimming. Use the acronym FAST to identify symptoms of a stroke. F stands for face drooping. Does one side of the person's face droop? For example, in a crooked smile. A is for arm weakness. Can they raise both arms? S is for speech difficulties. Are they slurring? T stands for time. If you see any of these signs, it's time to call emergency services. Many species of mushrooms are poisonous to humans and can even be fatal, so do not eat wild mushrooms. Dangerous ones can also look convincingly like edible ones. After you fall into very cold water, dry yourself off, dress in layers, and warm up gradually. A phenomenon known as afterdrop means that if you warm up rapidly, your core temperature may initially continue to cool. If a stranger tries to force you into their car, shout for help and fight back as hard as you can. Escape will be more difficult once you're taken to a new location. A knife can be lethal, even in inexperienced hands. If someone pulls one on you, don't escalate the situation. Run away if you can. If you can't, hand them what they want. Your wallet isn't worth your life.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
Telling people where you're going increases your chance of survival if you get lost, injured, or kidnapped. In 2021, unintentional shooting deaths accounted for over 4% of gun-related deaths in the US. Many involved children. In the home, firearms should be stored unloaded and in a secure place behind child-proof safety locks. Using water to put out a grease or oil fire will make the fire worse. Instead, turn off the stove to cut off the heat and cover the pot to cut off oxygen.
Get out of the way!
You can use your pants as a life preserver by taking them off, tying the legs together, and filling your pants with air, either by scooping the waist down through the air into the water or by breathing into the waist from below. Scrunch the waist tight to prevent air escaping. About half of the passengers killed in car accidents in 2020 in the US were not wearing seatbelts. Buckle up. Many backpacks have a built-in whistle to get attention. Especially in windy weather, don't camp under a tree. Tree limbs sometimes shed or break off and could come down on your tent. If you fall into quicksand, don't panic. You can only really sink up to your waist. Wriggle your legs to loosen them, sit back, and try to float out. It's okay to ask for help if you're feeling depressed. There are plenty of publicly available numbers to call if you need someone to talk to. If you hit your head and briefly lose consciousness, seek medical care when you wake up. You likely have a concussion. You could also have an epidural hematoma, bleeding between your skull and the membrane around your brain. Toilets are more deadly than sharks. Each year in the US, around 40,000 people are injured in toilet seat-related accidents. Make sure not to slip on a wet bathroom floor. Distracted driving is the leading cause of car accidents in the US, so stay off your phone while driving. A gun trigger can be pulled faster than you can react, so don't try to disarm someone if you're being robbed. Things are replaceable, your life is not. You can estimate the remaining daylight time by extending your arm in front of you and holding your hand out with your pinky finger on the horizon line. The width of one finger is roughly equal to the distance the sun will travel in 15 minutes. 4 fingers equals 1 hour. If you're buried in an avalanche and disorientated, spit. Your saliva will follow the gravity, and you can dig in the opposite direction. Smoking causes cancer. We know you know, but it's an important one. The harder you make it for a burglar to enter, the less likely a break-in will occur. So always lock your doors. Also, be careful when someone comes to the door. Just because the doorbell rings doesn't mean you're obligated to open the door.
Hey, Glenda.
Horses cannot see immediately in front of or behind them, and horse kicks are incredibly powerful. So never approach a horse from behind. Stand on the side of the horse between the head and shoulder. You can perform the Heimlich maneuver on yourself. Form a fist just above the navel. Place your other palm over the fist to push more firmly. Drive your fist in and up in the diaphragm area, the top of your stomach, and repeat until the object stuck in your throat dislodges. If a man takes a pregnancy test and the result is positive, it might be the sign of testicular cancer.
Testicular cancer can hit men at any age, but almost half of the cases are found in men between 20 and 34.
The safest place to sit on a plane in the case of a plane crash is near the back, in a middle seat. The worst seats are on either side of the aisle in the middle of the aircraft, which is almost double the fatality rate. If you're stuck in a stampede, the most important thing is to stay on your feet. Keep your hands around chest height to protect yourself and prevent being crushed. If someone is drowning, remember this rhyme: reach or throw, don't go. Use a long item to reach out for the victim to grab onto. Otherwise, throw them something that floats. If you approach without a flotation device, a drowning person is likely to grab onto you and pull you under. Even when someone has been pulled ashore after drowning, that person can still die due to leftover water in their lungs. This is called dry drowning. Even if you've been saved from drowning, you still need urgent medical attention. If you need to break a car window, aim for the edges or corners. The center of the window is usually the strongest part.
Push it in the corner and apply pressure. And there we have it.
Embassies and consulates have emergency numbers they answer 24 hours a day. When abroad, it can pay to have this number saved in your phone. If you possess a gun, you're more likely to be shot during an assault. This is especially true in cases where the victim has a chance to resist.
Hey, old man, give me everything.
Call an ambulance! Call an ambulance! But not for me.
Some thieves use posts on social media to identify and plan robberies. When you check in somewhere, it indicates you're not at home.
How easy would it be to find the location of her house?
Well, from a car, yes, you can get the location of the house, but same time, for going to the life thing, sometimes the address is in there.
Although it's rare, alcohol withdrawal can be fatal. If you have a long-standing problem with alcohol and show signs of withdrawal, like tremors, insomnia, nausea, or anxiety, get medical assistance. People do not outgrow asthma. Whilst some might become asymptomatic as they get older, the potential for asthma remains. Always carry an inhaler and keep the prescription up to date, even if you haven't had symptoms for years. You do not have to wait 24 hours to report a missing person. There is no time limit, and the sooner you report it, the better. One of the symptoms of hypothermia is drowsiness. If you or someone else has stopped shaking from extreme cold and is feeling sleepy, it's not a good sign. Get inside and warm up. Closed doors can slow the spread of fire and smoke. With this in mind, it's best to sleep with the door of your bedroom shut. Also, be sure to check the batteries in your smoke alarms regularly.
Fire can't go through doors, stupid. It's not a ghost.
While driving, if the accelerator pedal gets stuck or something else causes unintended acceleration in your car, press the brakes firmly and put it in neutral. Extinguishing a fire is a lot easier with a fire extinguisher, so buy one before you need one. The best preventions for heart disease, which is the leading cause of death in the US, are eating a healthy diet, exercising regularly, maintaining a healthy weight, limiting your alcohol intake, not smoking, getting your blood pressure checked regularly, and managing diabetes if you have it. Keeping healthy and not smoking can also reduce your chance of getting cancer, the second leading cause of death in the US. But you should also talk to your doctor about how to do self-checks and how often you should get screened. Your subconscious mind will be able to pick up warning signs that your conscious mind might not. So if a situation doesn't add up and something feels off, trust your gut and instincts. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.